Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic.
I'm Barry P. Cook. I'm here to talk to you about the latest episode of Wolfpack. It was called Lion's Breath. And as the episode opens, we find Everett waking up with a start and seeing the kid who's forgotten his name, I guess his name is Baron, in his room, though it's not clear whether he's really there. And Everett tells him that he needs to remember his name, but when he goes to tell him his name, Baron snarls at Everett and then disappears. And then Everett seems to wonder if he's seeing these hallucinations or seeing this kid because he's not taking his medication and that maybe it's a hallucination. Then, as he's looking in the mirror in his bathroom, he seems to see someone else's reflection. And then he sees Baron standing there again. And Baron kind of wolfs out, but then self combusts and disappears. But then shows up again, walking around Everett's house, completely naked, by the way. So Everett tries to find him, but it would seem that Baron left the house, as evidenced by a wide open front door, only to come running straight back in growling. And at this point, I'm wondering why Everett isn't just saying the kid's name, because that's what you're supposed to do, right? Remind them of their name. So why isn't, I mean, I know he tried already, but why isn't he trying again to just say his name and snap him out of it? I don't know. It was kind of weird. Anyway, Baron then starts pacing in Everett's kitchen as Everett hides behind a counter. And Baron tells Everett that he can't stop it, meaning that he can't stop the wolf from hurting people. Everett then seems to see a vision of Phoebe's dead body on his stairs as water trickles down over her. And she talks to him, saying that Baron is going to kill everyone around him and then him. When he asks her who he's going to kill next, she just opens her mouth really, really wide, like in that creepy horror movie way, and piano music comes out.
Who's he gonna kill next?
And then the next thing you know, it seems to be morning and all the visions are over. Firefighter dude, who is Luna and Harlan's father and whose name I don't remember, wakes up with his gun in his hand at his desk and seems alarmed by this before he looks over some object or other that he had kept growth records of his kids on. Then the Sarah Michelle Gellar character shows up at his house and returns a silver bullet to him that the lab techs found on the ground somewhere and realized it was his. And when she says that she thought it was a genuine silver bullet, he lies and says, nope, just nickel plated brass. And he says it's because he loved the Lone Ranger when he was a kid. She asks him to bring Harlan by the office so she can talk to him, but she promises that he won't need a lawyer because she doesn't think he started the fire. And she says she'll protect him like he was one of her own. Then we go to the motel where Blake's father sends the little brother into the motel room by himself to gather his stuff so they can check out while he talks to the hotel manager or motel manager. The little brother comes upon a rather bloody scene in the room. We then go back to Everett as he's showing the other three pack members where all the visions took place in his house and telling them about it. He says that based on the piano music that came out of Phoebe's mouth, he thinks Austin is the next target. And they want to try to stop him from being killed, so they want to try to catch Baron, the werewolf. Then we're back at the motel, and for some reason, the bloody scene in the motel room leads to Phoebe's body in the tub, which is really weird. And for some reason, Sarah Michelle Gellar's character, the arson investigator, is there dealing with it, which doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, Everett then has a conversation with his mother when she doesn't want him to borrow the car, but he borrows the car anyway, and he and Blake drive to the motel holding hands. Upon seeing Sarah Michelle Gellar's character at the scene at the motel, Danny, the little brother, seems to remember her, but he says he saw her at the parking garage, which Blake doesn't seem to remember. She remembers Danny having met the Sarah Michelle Gellar character in the motel parking lot when she had come to talk to Blake one time before. Everett and Harlan discuss a plan to kill the werewolf and then use CPR to bring it back to life once it's human again, theoretically freeing it from the curse. Luna talks to Austin and he agrees to be bait for the werewolf. So Everett and Harlan give him a silver coated knife in case something goes wrong and he needs to use it. Then we get to see the actual event when the hotshot crew died in that fire 17 years ago when they encountered the wolf. And we get to see the wolf turn back into a woman and charge at and kill most of the hotshot crew, except for that one guy who got away, before collapsing to the ground in the middle of the fire. And it would seem that we saw this as a flashback of the Sarah Michelle Gellar character as she's conducting a second investigation of the construction site with firefighter guy. And I'm thinking that she is the werewolf that killed the hotshot crew and the mother of Baron. Next, she and firefighter guy come upon the pile of bodies, and she pretends not to have known it was there. Austin tells Luna that he saw the werewolf dragging Phoebe's body away, but didn't say anything because he thought no one would believe him, but she says she believes him. Sarah Michelle Gellar's character wants to call in the pile of bodies all of a sudden, but the firefighter guy tells her she can't because he'll lose his kids if they get caught up in something this big. And the two of them talk about the fact that the killer is both a person and not a person, as far as firefighter guy can tell. Luna and Austin confront the werewolf as it shows up to kill Austin. Luna says she needs Austin to hit her so that the werewolf will see him as a threat. But even though she strikes him twice, he can't do it and instead kisses her, which seems to work well enough because the werewolf starts to chase them. Then they manage to pull a switcheroo and get him to actually chase Blake, who, of course, can run faster, because they're trying to lead him to a freezer. They do, in fact, get him into the freezer, and whenever it steps in to help Blake, it swipes at him, but he manages to catch its hand, which doesn't stop it from grabbing him by the neck. So he starts telling him that his name is Baron, and then it drops him. And he and Blake run and manage to lock the werewolf in the freezer, after which they have to use all of their wolf strength, along with the wolf strength of Harlan and Luna, to keep it from busting the door down before it freezes. Once it freezes and turns back into Baron in human form, all four of them go over to try to do CPR to bring him back. But before they can do that, Austin comes in and stabs him in the chest with the silver coated knife, which is where the episode ended. So I actually liked this episode quite a bit. You know, when I saw the first couple of episodes, I was like, oh, this show is going to be terrible. It's so goofy. And there's a lot of stuff that's nonsensical in it in terms of the way the characters behave. And some of the things they depict don't make sense. But I've come to see that really it's a good show. It's just that they've changed werewolf lore a little bit, typical werewolf lore, and they're doing it a little bit differently. So once you accept that, you find that the show does work within its own rules that it's established. And the story is actually pretty good. I like the direction they've taken the characters in, because they could have gone in a completely different direction if they'd wanted to, but they've gone in a direction that's satisfying and that I think makes sense, in that all the characters are really getting along and really connected. And, you know, Blake and Everett are even a couple. And they're even sort of developing something between Austin and Luna, which is cool. And it took them a while, but they did bring on a big twist with the Sarah Michelle Gellar character. And it's starting to look like she indeed is something more than just an arson investigator. And at this point, I think it would be really hard to not think that she's Baron's mother and also a werewolf herself, which I didn't necessarily think was the case when I first thought that maybe she was Baron's mother, but I think she, in fact, is also a werewolf who I guess was turned back to human. I'm not really sure what that means, turned back to human, because Harlan and Everett and Blake and Luna are all human, but they also like wolf out and grow fangs and their eyes glow, but they don't fully change and grow the fur. So I don't know what's going on there. Like, why is Baron stuck in werewolf form, or why was he stuck in werewolf form and not able to do the human form where he just has the teeth and the eyes? And what's the difference between those two forms? In other words, once you're bitten, you're never fully human again, but you're human appearing just with some wolfy attributes, unless you go full blown wolf, at which point you get stuck that way. I guess that's how they're trying to work it, and that's a little unusual for werewolf stories. So it'll be interesting to see if they explain why that works that way. But I think it's really become a good show. We still don't really know who the voice on the phone is. Maybe we'll figure that out. Maybe it's Sarah Michelle Gellar's character. I don't know, but I just think it's a really good, enjoyable show now. And there's only one more episode left, so I'll be back to review that one once it's released. But for now, I'm going to get out of here. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.